So how do we want to start this? We could talk about the fact that you got 3 games back on me, so you're only 2 down now this season because all 3 breaks went your way. Been bitching and moaning on the show. Oh, Frank's always getting the breaks. Well, you got the breaks this week in all those one-possession games, actually, that we differed on, which is fitting, by the way. We're differing on one-possession games. 3 points, 3 points, 7 points. Was that how it worked out or something like that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So there you go. I mean, when we're differing, it looks like it's going to be a good game in general. Yep. So we're at least looking correct in that respect. But I think we need to pay a little honor to who you roasted last Friday. One Peyton Lyon. We're going to show highlights of his game later on in the show, so we won't bore you with all that right now in the cold open. But there's a tweet from him about how much he loves football after his 50-yard or thereabouts pass wins the game for St. Norbert against Wisconsin Lutheran on Saturday. I couldn't be happier for him. After what we put him through and everything else on the Spud Bowl BS, the fact that this guy comes out there, they lose the lead. They had like a 12-point lead to St. Norbert. They're down by a point, and he gets that ball into the end zone for the touchdown with about 13 seconds left. Incredible job by him. Again, stay tuned for Crunchtime highlights. We'll show it there. But, JB, anything you'd like to say to Peyton after, you kind of put him through all this?
I was just pointing out what the broadcast said, and I called him a gamer last week for the fact that he was, no matter how he was feeling, he hung in that game. He got sacked 7 times in the Spud Bowl. I mean, he just kept picking himself off the floor. I'm really happy for him and St. Norbert that they got this win this last weekend. And as we'll talk about coming up, it wasn't very common for the home team to win this weekend. So good for them. And 2-1 on the season. They've got a long way to go here. And I think having a guy like Peyton is going to help them.
Interesting point, because I've done 5 games in person, and this is the first time in my highlight file name. I usually will do versus if it's a home win, at if it's on the road. This is the first time, Catholic beating Mooresville, I had to use at because 1 out of 5 games now, the away team has won a game I have attended. So something to that this season. The home team seems to have been doing really well until this week. And I'm not sure what that all means, but we'll keep that in our back of our minds as we go here for Week 3, Crunch Time on Season 16 of In the Huddle. So first off, I should give props here. I've got to go do a special delivery to Saratoga Springs in a little while of a Balsa Spa football jersey for Mayor Ron Kim, as we discussed on Friday. He's got to wear it. Yep, he's got to wear on Tuesday. But I've got the Ballston football shirt on, thanks to Coach Jason Onsman for this. Make sure it kind of pops out there. And they will be playing, I believe, at Shenendehowa on Friday evening, which is never easy locally. Shenendehowa, Class AA matchup that they gained. The funny story is, in our setup here in New York, Class AA is also based on school size, and I think Balsa Spa moved up to Class AA from Class B by 2 students this year, or last year technically. Yep. So 2 students in enrollment put them into basically the gauntlet of high school football here in Section 2 in upstate New York. So it's going to be a task for them, but you know what? They beat Saratoga. They're 1-0. We'll see how it goes on Friday night. Hey. Now back to college football. And, I think we got a good flavor for the fact still that everything underneath North Central and Mount Union, who did not put up, let's say, mega points against, who was it, Muskingum, or was it Marietta or Muskingum? I keep forgetting today.
Mount Union put up 28 to Marietta, and
Thank you,
Braxton
Marietta.
Plunk and Wayne Ruby set some school records as far as completions, I think receiving yards and touchdowns. So even though they didn't blow them out, I mean, North Central, I think they beat Carthage 70-0. So that was the most lopsided victory they've had in that 68 or so year series. They still looked like the two top teams in the division. We'll have to see how it shakes out, just 3 on down.
But everything below that, honestly, seems to be a mishmash of I don't know what at this point. I did the syllogism yesterday because our friends at the third division wanted to know or to have a video apparently what's wrong with Mary Hardin Baylor, and my response was, well, not much, because Mary Hardin Baylor almost beat Wisconsin Whitewater, who beat St. John's by 28, who beat Trinity in overtime, who beat Mary Hardin Baylor. And so the law of syllogisms say that when you kind of link all this together, they're a young team playing a great schedule. What's wrong with Mary Hardin Baylor? I know about 200 coaches, if not more, out in this country that would say, I'll take that problem any day of the week, ultimately, if that's a problem suddenly. So let's keep it in perspective, folks. We have to realize every so often teams will fall off. See Whitewater in 2012 for more information. This team's going to start winning games. Probably their next game is OW. And every game up to maybe Hardin-Simmons and then Howard Payne will probably be W's. Interestingly, this season, Mary Hardin Baylor will be playing at Hardin-Simmons again because of the kind of problematic situation going on with the ASC schedule. So 2 years in a row in Abilene this go-around is going to be what the situation is for that game. And so Hardin-Simmons will homestand for the game they're supposed to win according to everything going on right now. We'll see where it goes. But before we go further down that line, week 3, 30,000-foot view. We talked about the top 2. What about the rest? What did you see there for this week?
Well, I mean, the rest, when you look at like the top 10 in the nation, they all won by pretty comfortable measures. There were a few others in the top 25 that had some lopsided victories, a few close calls here and there. But for the most part, like I said, when I was looking back on week 3, I was noticing that it was like a road warrior weekend. I mean, you'll see when we go through all the different scores on Crunchtime, a lot of road teams got victories this weekend, and in some ways very dramatic fashion. So it was a good weekend to be a road dog of some kind, a road warrior, however you want to call it, and it sets up an interesting but sort of a quieter week 4. It's a little bit of a kind of a calm before the eventual conference play storm. And going back to what you were saying with UMHB, if they finish the season 7-3, they're going to the playoffs. Remember, that's how you punch your ticket in Division 3. If you win your conference, you get in, and there will be 28 of those Pool A or automatic qualifiers. And even though they're 0-3 and they're out of conference, the Crusaders are 0-0 in the ASC, and all they have to do is win 7 conference games, and they're in. And I guarantee you, nobody probably wants to see that Crusaders team come November. You never know what will happen. It'll be an interesting ride.
They could go 6-4 technically and get in if you have Hardin-Simmons in Howard Payne and Mary Hardin Baylor, or somebody else in a triumvirate of teams with that round, merry-go-round loss scenario, and they could sneak in that way too. But 7-3 would assure them a playoff berth because it would be an ASC championship guaranteed in that situation. But again, stop writing the epitaphs because you're going to be sorry for doing so if you do it now. You won't be sorry if you continue to tune in here, because right now it's time for Crunch Time for week number 3 of the 2023 Division III college football season. Plenty of highlights to go here. We'll start with Rochester at Salve Regina. Second quarter, 6:23 left. It's Rochester's Will Varney with his 8-yard touchdown run to give Rochester a 7-3 lead. Then 4 minutes later, Salve Regina's Marcelino Labella gets a 14-yard pass from Jake Stack for the touchdown. That gives Salve Regina back the lead, 10-7. Rochester would add a 37-yard field goal with no time left in the first half to tie the game. Then we're going to go into a 16-play drive deep into the fourth quarter for Salve Regina, but this 25-yard field goal attempt is no good, wide left. So with 1:16 left, Rochester got the ball, and you're going to see here first a 3rd and 10 play. Ryan Rose complete to Aiden Pepintoni for 25 yards here to the Salve 22. And then with 21 seconds left, Trey Johnson gets a 22-yard touchdown pass from Ryan Rose to win this game 17-10. They win it because Jake Stack is intercepted by Jack Yensel at the Rochester 30-yard line, and that would do it. The final score, again, is 17-10 Rochester. Again, we talked about that 16-play drive that ended up with no points for Salve toward the end. And Ryan Rose with the game-winning touchdown pass with 21 seconds left. Those are your major highlights in that game, which maybe we'll talk a little bit more about later. Also in Region 1, we have Stevenson at FDU Florham as the MAC starts their conference games at this point. Second quarter, 2 minutes into it, Ryan Thompson with a 2-yard touchdown run makes it a 14-7 score in favor of FDU Florham. But the next play from offense is this 60-yard run by Lewis Klauser to tie the game up for Stevenson, 14 apiece. Stevenson would add a 25-yard field goal 10 minutes into the third quarter, but then fourth quarter, 9:43 left, Quanier Edwards gets a 1-yard run for a 21-17 lead for FDU Florham. Fourth quarter still, 4:37 left. Pat Gorman from Stevenson, a 20-yard pass from Nair Wilson gives them back the lead. This was a great one, folks. 24-21. We'll go to later on in this fourth quarter, 3rd and 4, and Ryan Thompson is intercepted by Anthony Lembo, and that would do it. Stevenson would just eke out a victory in this one, 24-21. And Lewis Klauser, 18 rushes, 160 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. Ryan Thomas, 21 for 26, 335 yards, 1 passing touchdown and an interception. And apologies if I called him Thompson or anything like that. Ryan Thomas is, we got to get this right here. Ultimately, in the losing effort, he still had a great day for FDU Florham. We'll come back out here for a second here. Colby versus Williams. We can't get highlights. We're working with NSN, who is the provider for the broadcast streaming for these NESCAC games, or several of them. And we're working with them to try to get rights from here on out because they're behind a paywall, as a lot of you know. Williams wins the game 25-22. Owen McHugh, 215 total yards for Williams, 2 passing, 1 rushing touchdown. And Matt McHugh, 8 receptions for 160 yards for Colby with 1 receiving touchdown. A little disappointing we can't get those NESCAC highlights there. But go ahead, I'll give you a chance here.
Well, I was just going to say that I thought it was interesting that Williams had a guy named McHugh, and so did Colby. But double checking, they're both from Massachusetts, but different hometowns, not related. Maybe they're cousins or something, but I thought that was kind of funny.
Well, let's go through the rest of Region 1.
Yeah, so as we said, a lot of road teams getting some wins. I mean, obviously, WestCon taking care of business at home, 42-0 on Friday night. Wesleyan, who we were kind of kidding around, is Wisconsin from our little Friday cold open, takes care of Bates, 28-17. RPI wins the Transit Trophy, 25-0. Del Val, no trouble with Eastern, kind of the same thing with UMass, Dartmouth, Endicott, all winning their games comfortably. Worcester State wins. University of New England, Frank, very quietly 3-0, undefeated starting off for the Northeasters. They have a pretty big game this weekend, though. It'll be interesting to see how they fare. Coast Guard is still putting up a lot of points. They outlast Nichols. Husson, Bowdoin, Buff State actually gets a win on the road against Dean in pretty convincing fashion. The Cadets win sort of the battle of the Northern New England, or the Leaf Peeper Bowl between them and Castleton. Widener looking very strong with 57 points over Alvernia. Sort of a surprise here, Frank. Curry wins 20-16. They caused 3 turnovers, and their running back ran for over 200 yards, winning some CCC Player of the Week recognition. So looking good for the Colonels there. Lev-Val, Bridgewater State, Western New England, Kings, who has a huge game, one of the best games actually in Week 4 coming up. We'll talk about that later. Trinity, Middlebury, and Anna Maria were the other winners in Region 1.
Congrats to Coach Parsons over at Curry. Ever since leaving Endicott, it's been a little tough go for him, but that was a big win for him, and congratulations to him for that. Let's go to Region 2. We got plenty to cover in Region 2, so let's go here. Springfield at Union. We're going to go midway through the second quarter. Michael Fiore gets a 5-yard touchdown run for Union to make it 7-0 Union. Then we're going to take a look at this Jacob Sylvester pass that's intercepted by Nathan Sullivan and returned 19 yards to the Springfield 30-yard line. It set up this Donovan Piccatti 2-yard touchdown run with 3:46 left second quarter. It's 14-0 Union. Before halftime, Union's Tommy Leonard gets a 21-yard touchdown pass from Piccatti to make it 21-0 Union. It was all Union, 34-7 in a game that should have been close. It wasn't, in favor of the Garnet Chargers, Dutchman, or what have you at this point. The defense allowed 0 touchdowns so far in this season. That's 12 quarters, folks. And the offense outgained Springfield 445 yards to 150. Donovan Piccatti, 290 total yards in a passing and rushing touchdown in the game. Then the game heard round Region 2. It was Susquehanna at Cortland. We'll start here in the first quarter, 8:23 left. J.J. Lapp, 80-yard touchdown pass from Zach Boyes. We thought about dusting off the lap, what was it, the lap counter or whatever it was back last year. Well, unfortunately, you'll see why we didn't. Lap tracker, very good. But second quarter, 4:56 left. It's deja vu, but 89 yards this time between Boyes and Lapp for a touchdown, 21-14 in favor of Cortland. Notice that score is still close here as we are midway through the game. Third quarter, 13:35 left. Cole Burgess, a 58-yard touchdown pass from Zach Boyes. He had a couple of touchdowns in this game, did Burgess. 28-14 Cortland. We'll hear from Susquehanna as Josh Ehrlich, who I haven't given much credit to this season. He has a heady 14-yard touchdown run here to make it 28-21, but Burgess again, there he is, 33-yard touchdown pass from Boyes. 35-21 Cortland with 3:27 left in the third quarter. This game's over, right, folks? Well, you know better. Fourth quarter, 4:09, Rowan Hershey, 12-yard touchdown pass from the aforementioned Josh Ehrlich. Makes it a 35-28 score. Then a punt, and they get the ball back to Susquehanna. 1:39 left. Kyle Howes, a 15-yard touchdown pass from Josh Ehrlich, ties the game. What better way to continue momentum than this, which is a kickoff return that's fumbled by Rashad Tucker, and it is recovered by Dominic Wynn of Susquehanna. That puts them automatically in field goal range, and here's the kick.
Ball's down, kicks up, it is good. And the ball game is over, and Susquehanna comes from 14 points down to beat Cortland 38-35.
They trailed by 14 points with 5:22 left. Josh Ehrlich, 389 total yards, 3 passing, 1 rushing touchdown. J.J. Lapp, though, 250 receiving yards, plus those 2 touchdowns. Then we have Bethany at Teal, a team we don't really talk much about both these teams, actually. I think we've done Teal one time on that road win they had, which broke their long streak. Second quarter, 4:42 left. Teal's Chase Lawler gets a 5-yard touchdown pass from Joseph Fell to give Teal an 8-7 lead. 28 seconds left in the first half. Blake Joseph gets an 11-yard touchdown pass from that Joseph Fell character. It's 15-7 now in favor of Teal at halftime. 5 minutes into the third quarter, hey, Joseph Fell, have a day. He gets a 2-yard touchdown run to make it 22-7 in favor of Teal. But then, as they try to break a 7-year winless streak at home, you begin to wonder what's going to happen here. On 3rd and 8, Fell is sacked and fumbles the ball at the 1-yard line. Teal collects the ball there, and they'll get that touchdown one play later to make it 22-14. Still Teal's lead, but Charlie Mills gets that touchdown for Bethany. We'll go forward, though, because the defense for Teal steps up here at a good time. 3rd and 5 at the Bethany 26, and it's an interception by Raymond Jackson against Kairos Sam, and that protects that tenuous 8-point lead. 2.5 minutes left in the game, 11th play of the drive here on 4th and 11. It's Kairos Sam passing complete to Charlie Mills, but only for 7 yards, so it's a turnover on downs. And then it's basically Teal's job to try to run out the clock. Here's a 1st and 10 play. Donnie Pattison gets 10 yards on the dot. That's enough for a first down. And here's what the emotion was at Teal.
Under center. And ladies and gentlemen, G Vegas will be partying tonight. 22-14. Tomcats take it over the Bethany Bison. And snap. the home losing streak.
Indeed, Teal wins 22-14, their first home win since 2016. Joseph Fell, 111 total yards, 2 passing, 1 rushing touchdown, and Charlie Mills, 2 rushing touchdowns for Bethany in that game. Congratulations, Teal, and we'll see where this goes from here. And let's move on here to Catholic at Morrisville State, a game I attended. 3:09 left first quarter. It's Quamel Jarvis with a 41-yard pass from Stephen Freerick to make it a 7-7 game at that point. Then we'll go to the second quarter, 6 minutes into it. Preston Jeffrey, get used to that name, getting an 18-yard touchdown pass from Madden Lowe to give Catholic the 14-7 lead. Just before halftime, Morrisville equalizes, again with Quamel Jarvis getting a 15-yard touchdown pass from Stephen Freerick to tie it 14 apiece. Fourth quarter we'll skip to, and Morrisville State's Stephen Freerick gets a 1-yard touchdown run to make it 20-17 in favor of Morrisville. We'll go 10 minutes here. It was a 16-play drive ultimately that took 7 minutes. Preston Jeffrey gets his 3rd touchdown of the game. From Madden Lowe, that is, a 17-yard touchdown pass, 24-20 in favor of Catholic. They're trying to protect the lead. Morrisville gets well past midfield, but Aiden Long says, give me that ball and give me 6. He gets the pick 6, does Aiden Long, and Catholic wins this game 31-20. Madden Lowe, 259 total yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and an interception. Stephen Freerick, 197 total yards, 1 passing, 1 rushing touchdown, and an interception. Then let's go to a very interesting game, the way it played out, honestly. It's Franklin and Marshall at Montclair State. 5 minutes into the second quarter, Gary Lewis from F&M gets a 15-yard touchdown pass from Ty Tremba. It's 17-0 Franklin and Marshall at this point. Montclair will be heard from, though, in the first half. 3:17 left. Clarence Wilkins gets a 68-yard touchdown pass from Andrew Sanborn to make it 17-6 in favor of F&M. Then, 39 seconds left second quarter, it's Sanborn calling his own number for a 16-yard touchdown run, 17-12. F&M led at halftime. We'll skip to the fourth quarter. Montclair State's Andrew Sanborn with a 4-yard touchdown run, and that makes things very interesting here as Montclair gets the lead at this point, 25-17. So they take the lead. F&M with 28 seconds left, though, is able to equalize back as Gary Lewis gets a 6-yard touchdown pass from Ty Tremba, and the Ty Tremba 2-point conversion attempt is good. 25-25, we're going to overtime. In the first part of overtime, Andrew Sanborn is intercepted here by Matt Scully in the end zone, and it's a chance here for F&M, just needing a field goal. Well, they get more than that as Dante Wilson gets a 2-yard touchdown run to win the game for Franklin and Marshall, 31-25 in overtime. Ty Tremba, 25 for 44, 285 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Avalani Mendez from Montclair, 20 rushes, 154 yards, and 1 rushing touchdown. And then, you want overtime? We got more overtime for you here as Grove City faces Case Western Reserve. 7-7 at halftime was the score, so we'll go to the third quarter. 7:37 left. Grove City's Clayton Parrish with a 1-yard touchdown run makes it 14-7 Grove City. But then Case Western gets on a roll. 4 minutes later, Sean Michael James, a 3-yard touchdown pass from Alex Fromberg makes it 14 apiece. Case takes the lead in the fourth quarter, 6 minutes into it, as Michael Wojciechowski gets a 4-yard touchdown pass from Alex Fromberg. 21-14, Case Western Reserve leads. Grove City, they do what they do. 3.5 minutes later, Nico Flatty with a 7-yard touchdown run ties the game. So they bounce back after losing the lead, does Grove City, 21 apiece. We'll go to overtime at this point, and Gabriel Petrazzi gets a 37-yard field goal for Case to give them a 24-21 lead, putting the pressure on Grove City. Well, Logan Pfeiffer says no pressure at all as he finds Scott Frazier for an 8-yard touchdown pass and a 27-24 win for Grove City in overtime. Nico Flatty, 33 rushes, 128 yards, 1 rushing touchdown. Alex Fromberg, 229 total yards for Case, 2 passing touchdowns in the losing effort. That was a great game, a great evening game for us to watch as we had another full day of football across the country, even in regions 2 and others that you wouldn't expect it in the Central Time Zone as well. But thanks to them for such an entertaining game that went Grove City's way. How about the rest of Region 2?
Well, like I said, Frank, it was definitely a good weekend to be the road team. I believe the home winners there was only 9 out of the 21 games in this region, but as you can see, there was a lot of excitement going on. There was almost too many games to keep track of here. But going with some of the other scores, it was funny. Hopkins seemed to only have a 13-7 lead over Salisbury for a while, but then they pulled away, winning big, 42-7. Carnegie Mellon take care of business in 41-10. Alfred loses to Ithaca 22-0 at home. Muhlenberg, Brockport, Fisher, Utica. The Utica game was interesting, Frank. They were actually, and if there weren't so many of these overtime and all these other crazy games going on, they probably would have made that initial cut for the highlight reel. They had to convert a 4th and 16. It was really a great call by Coach Fagiano there. They get the touchdown and are able to hang on to get a win. One of the things that's been interesting in Region 2, Frank, with the addition of the landmark is that all the schedules has been sort of thrown up in the air, and we were getting these really interesting matchups that we haven't seen in a long time, like Juniata and Hartwick. Or am I saying that right or wrong? Juniata, I think that's right. I don't know. There was some talk about that earlier this week. Washington Jeff wins big. Dickinson gets a win over Kane. McDaniel, William Patterson. That is a Region 2 game, folks. Just so you know. Gettysburg loses 17-49 to Christopher Newport, and then in our late game, which started at 6 o'clock, your Sinus looking very strong in the Centennial, wins 44-21 at Rowan.
Keeping that winning streak alive, no less, is your Sinus. I believe that's 9 in a row now for them, which is one of the longest in D3 Nation right now. Let's go to Region 3, Trinity at Birmingham Southern. Another game that was supposed to be kind of the game of the week type of thing. Well, here we go. And Trinity kind of starts off the offense here. We'll take you here to a Tucker Horn pass complete that is to Ryan Merrifield for 32 yards. Gets it to the BSC 23-yard line. It led to this Justin Carmouche 1-yard touchdown run to make it a 7-0 game in the first quarter, 4 minutes left. And then, again, let's look at Tucker Horn engineering the drive here as he passes complete to Merrifield at a 24-yard pass to the 25-yard line, and that led to him passing complete for a 1-yard touchdown pass to Matthew Kovacevic to make it 14-0 in favor of Trinity. On the next play, you'll see the defense step up here as Kendall Johnson rushes for 16 yards but fumbles the ball, and Drayden Ashford knocked it loose. Ryan Arnold gets that fumble recovery for Trinity. And so right away, they go back to work as it leads to another touchdown, this time Legend Grigsby, that rushed for 4 yards to give them a 21-0 lead. We're still in the first half, folks, 1:39 left. And then Tyler, I want to say Hytel is the pronunciation, good from 50 yards on a field goal here. Huge field goal as time expires in the first half. Trinity up 24-0 there. We're going to just tell you, Trinity wins this game 38-3. Tucker Horn, very efficient, 25 for 32, 294 yards in a passing touchdown. Legend Grigsby, 8 rushes, 51 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. Let's go to center at Rhodes. And hey, you want more overtime? I got plenty of it for you on this one, folks. 1:13 left, first quarter. Scotty Brown gets a 33-yard touchdown pass from Jack Goman. It's 7-0 center. Later in the third quarter, it will be 10-3 center. 5 minutes left in that quarter. It's Blitter getting a 36-yard touchdown pass from Jack Goman, to make it 17-3 in favor of center. Rhodes will be heard from here. 4 minutes later, it's Knox Tejo with a 1-yard touchdown run and a 17-10 score in favor of center. And then he does it again 10 minutes into the fourth quarter. Knox Tejo with a 16-yard touchdown run, 17-17. We would go to overtime. In the first overtime, Miles Kruger hits a 40-yard field goal, puts the pressure here on center, so Cam Teggy gets his own 43-yard field goal. We go to a second overtime, folks. In that second overtime, Travis Muffer, a 26-yard touchdown pass from Jack Goman, 26-20, but they missed the 2-point conversion. You're forced to go for 2 now in the second overtime. Brent Barlow for Rhodes, he gets a 10-yard touchdown pass from Evan Reeder, 26-26, but Evan Reeder's rush attempt fails for 2. So we go to a third overtime. It's a battle of 2-point conversions now. Rhodes goes first. Evan Reeder's pass attempt, it's no good. And so it's up to center now. Jack Goman finds Joey Deschler for the win on the 2-point conversion in triple overtime. Center wins 28-26. Goman, 285 total yards, 3 passing touchdowns. Tejo Knox, 15 rushes, 59 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. Apologies if I messed up your name badly in this set. Then we go to Whitewater at UMHB, a game that was well delayed by lightning. And once they started, it was a great game. 5 minutes into the first quarter, Tamir Thomas, a 2-yard touchdown run, gives Whitewater a 7-0 lead. Second quarter, minute into it though, Isaac Fay, the quarterback for UMHB, with his own 1-yard touchdown run, capping an 11-play drive, ties the game 7 apiece. 6:55 left second quarter, Tamir Thomas. Boy, he's just a great player for them this season. 6 touchdowns in 2 weeks for him. With his 4-yard touchdown run, 14-7 Whitewater leads. Third quarter, 5 minutes into it, TJ Roan, a 33-yard touchdown pass from Isaac Fay. The Crew equalize here, 14 apiece. So, Whitewater goes to an old standard. Jeffrey Isatala McGuire with a 46-yard field goal attempt and the lead, 17-14 with 4 minutes left in the third quarter. We'll go into the fourth quarter, and there were 2 opportunities here for UMHB to tie or win this game. First, on a 4th-and-1 play, Isaac Fay gets 5 yards. They don't say forward progress, stopped, and they call a fumble, recovered by Wisconsin Whitewater with 4:48 left. With 2:26 left, Whitewater is forced to punt near midfield, so on 3rd and 5, it's a chance here. Isaac Fay, though, intercepted by Thomas Wojnowski to end the game in favor of Whitewater. They win 17-14. Tamir Thomas, 23 rushes, 111 yards, 2 rushing touchdowns. Isaac Fay, 209 total yards, 1 passing, 1 rushing touchdown, and an interception. More on this game later on after crunch time. But first, in crunch time, JB's got a little bit more to tell you about Region 3.
Yeah, I mean, other than some of the ranked teams, I mean, for the most part, it was a good region for home cooking here. We saw a lot of the home teams win in Region 3, starting with Ferrum. Although, then again, we had, Randolph-Macon winning big over Southern Virginia. Maryville beat Shenandoah 27-20. And then Hampden-Sydney won big 58-28 over Greensboro. But then you see Washalee, Sul Ross State, Bridgewater, and hey, let's give a shout out to Sewanee, the University of the South, who broke a 5-year, I think 23-game conference losing streak. They get a win in the SAA, and they beat Millsaps for the first time in 18 years, 27-21. Congratulations to those Tigers. I know that they were thrilled about that. Huntington wins big. Howard Payne drops 85 points on newcomer Lyon. Man, don't sleep on Howard Payne. I know, Frank, you've been talking about them all season. That's a lot of points. Hendricks 51-38, and then Brevard doesn't quite get over Abbott, who's now 3-0. Frank, they're undefeated, so one of the best starts in that program's history. And then Texas Lutheran took on a NAIA team and came up a little short, but that was Region 3.
You got it down now. NAIA, it rolls off the throat, doesn't it, at this point?
It took me a few seasons, but I'm getting there.
Yeah, we're here for you, man. We are here for you, JB. Let's go to a few games in Regions 4 through 6, which really didn't have as many highlight games as in the past, but that's going to be changing soon for sure. First, John Carroll at Baldwin Wallace for the OAC. And 8:07 left first quarter, Baldwin Wallace's George Lindberger gets a 1-yard touchdown run to make it 7-0 Baldwin Wallace. John Carroll, though, would take over from there. 7 seconds into the second quarter, Joe Turak, a 28-yard touchdown pass from Joe Collins, 7 apiece. We'll go to the second half. 6 minutes into it, Brennan Fugue, 16 yards from Joe Collins. It's 17-7 in favor of John Carroll. And then Matthew Busser gets a 9-yard touchdown run with 1:52 left in the third quarter to make it 23-7 John Carroll. Final score, John Carroll 30, Baldwin Wallace 7. Collins, 22 for 33, 302 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and it's Jeff Behrman's first head coaching win for John Carroll, 11th Cayuga Gold Bowl trophy win in a row, which is hard to believe that Baldwin Wallace hasn't gotten them in 11 years, or 11 tries at least, for the Cayuga Gold Bowl trophy. Let's go to Linfield at Redlands here next, and this was kind of the SCIAC After Dark, Northwest Conference After Dark affair. 5:01 left, first quarter. Aaron Martinez, a 1-yard touchdown run for Linfield, going the way you would expect, 7-0 Linfield, but that's kind of how things began to slow down in this game, because finally, second quarter, right before halftime, it's Gavin Dalzio with a 51-yard field goal. My goodness. 10-3 Linfield leads. Third quarter, and Linfield does add a touchdown here, but again, not as big of a score as you might expect. Devin Murray, a 1-yard touchdown pass from Blake Eaton, and it's 17-3 in favor of Linfield. So we'll go to the fourth quarter here. First off, Tyler Tremaine is intercepted by Colby Kalakua. So Linfield's defense steps up, but still Redlands with 1:16 left gets a Tyler Tremaine 15-yard touchdown run. 17-10 Linfield leads. You'll see here the onside kick attempt, but it just didn't go 10 yards. It went 9 yards, and therefore Linfield got the ball and would run out the clock on Redlands. Close, nippy game here, 17-10 Linfield. Blake Eaton, 22 for 30, 192 yards, 1 passing touchdown. Tyler Tremaine, 173 total yards, 1 rushing touchdown, and 2 interceptions. And then the game we've kind of teased in the cold open. Wisconsin Lutheran at St. Norbert. Halftime score is 12-7 St. Norbert. Third quarter, 5:48 left. Delton Zeleger gets a 9-yard touchdown run. 18-7 St. Norbert leads. Third quarter, 4 minutes later, Mike Dupree, 8-yard touchdown run, and the 2-point conversion fails, so it's 18-13 still St. Norbert's lead. Fourth quarter, 13:50 left, and Owen Kudik gets a 56-yard touchdown pass from Peyton Lyon. Nice form there, 25-13. St. Norbert with that 12-point lead. But 9:37 left. It's Emmett Hawkins, a 12-yard touchdown pass from Bryce Barbian. 25-20, St. Norbert's lead. Hey, they bounce back though. Owen Kudik, a 1-yard touchdown run he gets for St. Norbert. 31-20, now an 11-point lead as the kick was blocked there. Fourth quarter, 52 seconds left, and Travion Green, a 7-yard pass from Bryce Barbian, 2-point conversion pass, no good, 31-26 St. Norbert. And so Wisconsin Lutheran tries the onside kick, and they get it. My goodness, 43 seconds left, 1 play later, Emmett Hawkins from Bryce Barbian, a 38-yard touchdown pass, gives Wisconsin Lutheran the lead as the 2-point pass fails, 32-31. 30 seconds left. Peyton Lyon.
Snap back to Lyon. He's got protection. He's going deep for Berganis. He caught it! Touchdown! Green Knights! My goodness! Lyon aired it out! My goodness! Berganis hauled it in! The Green Knights have the lead! With 13 seconds on the game clock, he went up and got it. Lyon threw him a perfect ball, and the Green Knights have the lead.
Paul Bianagis, a 47-yard touchdown pass, and that is going to give them the win, because ultimately you'll see in the next play after the 37-32 lead that Bryce Barbian is complete to Emmett Hawkins, but it's fumbled, and it is St. Norbert's ball. It is St. Norbert's win. 37-32. What a game, and Peyton, hats off to you, buddy, because that was just incredible what you came back from right there. And in that game, we'll tell you that Peyton Lyon had 15 for 25, 251 yards, 3 passing touchdowns. Bryce Barbian, 34 for 52, 380 yards, 4 passing touchdowns on the day. JB, what an effort there. I love these games, kind of the hidden video type game situations where we might not think this is going to be a game we're going to be presenting to you, but again, Wisconsin Lutheran's famous for these, if you remember back when, against Concordia, Wisconsin during the COVID spring. But you get to see St. Norbert here again, just bounce back in the right way in that game. What else we got in 4 through 6?
Well, we got a lot of points. The obvious favorites like North Central, Mount Union, Wartburg, River Falls, Wheaton, La Crosse, Aurora, even Bethel. They all won big. Alma won big. So no surprises really there. One game that sort of jumped out to me, Frank, was Hope kind of coming back late to win 40-35 over Mount St. Joseph. That's a little bit of an upset, I guess you could say. We also saw Trine take down Franklin 58-43 after they came up a little short last week. I'm sure that was a good win for the Thunder. Nebraska Wesleyan quietly 3-0. They're going to have a big game with Co. A little later on. We'll get to that game on the next slide. But Concordia, Wisconsin outlasts Lakeland 31-28. Elsewhere, we had picked this game, Co versus Central, and it's the Co-Hawks who come away with the win, 19-11 in a back-and-forth affair. Illinois College rebounds with a big win over Ripon. Eureka wins 35-28. Elsewhere in Region 4 through 6, I'd say that Platteville coming up a little short against Michigan Tech was interesting, even though technically they're a D2 school. How that counts in the grand scheme of things, hard to say. Wash U wins big, as does Lake Forest. I love the tweet, Frank, I don't know if you saw from Coach Cat, where he hightailed it straight from his game to go catch his son's MVP performance later that Saturday, so that was a big day for the Cat and Zero family. Adrian outlasts Bluffton 23-13. Chicago wins big, as does Carleton. They're having a good season so far out in Minnesota. We got to keep an eye on those guys. Pack Lutheran wins the Lutheran Bowl, I guess you could say. George Fox comes up a little short against Claremont Mudd Scripps. Laverne clips Puget Sound. Montana Western is a NAIA school which takes care of Lewis and Clark. We saw that Butler, the Pioneer League non-scholarship FCS school, won against Wabash, but yeah, you have to give the Little Giants credit for scheduling that and fighting through. Heidelberg wins big, as does Wittenberg. Ohio Wesleyan. Willamette comes up short against another NAIA school in Southern Oregon. Whitworth manages to clip Chapman. That was one of those games that Frank and I picked that we could have gone either way. And lucky for me, the Pirates came up with the win. Funny though, just down the road, Pomona-Pitzer, same score, but just flipped. 24-17 winners over Pacific. And then in the late game, because of multiple weather and lightning delays, Augustana 74-06 over Elmhurst. They're a team in the CCIW, Frank, that I think it could be interesting to keep an eye on. We'll see.
And our friend Matt Nickel powered through a broadcast with everything going wrong with him in that game. He got it off the ground, and congratulations to him in that 74-7 drubbing. Unfortunately, of Elmhurst, who faces North Central this week. I can only imagine what that score is going to look like. Nonetheless, that was crunch time for Week 3 of the 2023 Division III college football season. JB, we got to fly through a couple things here a little bit. I've noticed on your Week 3 MVPs, you want to look Susquehanna strong here, and with good reason. Although, if I had an honorable mention, Peyton Line would get my honorable mention here for that performance at the end of the game against Wisconsin Lutheran for St. Norbert. But you went Susquehanna, can't blame you a bit. Go ahead.
So yeah, starting off on offense, Josh Ehrlich from Susquehanna, almost 400 yards of total offense, just never gave up, kept bringing his team back. It was a really heady performance, especially for a guy who's only a sophomore. I know he was technically a transfer from Marist, although he didn't play there. Pretty impressive performance overall. Had to give him the offensive MVP. Now, Colasurdo, I gave the special teams award to, not so much for the game-winning field goal, because there were guys like the player from Lingfield, who I think now kicked the longest field goal in the nation at this point at 51 yards. But honestly, it was Christian Colasurdo's kickoff, Frank, that I think won the game for the Riverhawks. Bear with me here. So there was a penalty after the touchdown that tied the game 35-35 for excessive celebration, right? So they pushed the kickoff to the 20. And so I think the Cortland Red Dragon returner was thinking, oh, great, I'm going to get this ball at the 30, maybe get to the 40, 50-yard line, set my team up for a game-winning field goal. Well, Colasurdo kicks that ball to the 10-yard line. Just quick math here. I think that's a 70-yard kickoff, Frank. Just boomed it, and I think that's when the panic set in for the Cortland returner, and that made him susceptible to the fumble, which we saw during crunch time, and that was really the game changer. So that's why I'm giving Colasurdo the special teams MVP from my side of the fence. Matt Burba from Whitewater, he just was a stout guy, a defensive tackle, plugging up the middle. He didn't lead the game in tackles, but I think he had 2 TFL and a sack, one of the 3 that the Warhawks got on that day. And so just a impressive, you got to give some love to the linemen here and there. So I went with him and the Warhawks. So those were my MVPs, and certainly helped me on a weekend where I needed to catch up. I caught some breaks, like you said, in week 2. You got the 3 games. This weekend it was my turn. But hey, it was a really fun weekend of D3 football, and here we are.
So one thing, I got to tell you, don't call a guy from Wisconsin Whitewater stout.
Ah, yes. Yeah, he might take, a guy from Whitewater might take offense to that.
Yeah. As Wisconsin stout is a thing, so just a reminder on that.
That's true. Yeah, fair enough.
Speaking of Whitewater, though, we're going to talk about a bunch of teams here briefly, as you shamed me into showing my top 25 ballot for week 3, and here we go. We'll put it on the screen to talk about it one by one here. First things first, obviously, North Central still number 1 and Mount Union number 2. Wartburg hasn't shown me any reason to drop them. Maybe a little bit of lightness in the offensive totals from time to time, but overall, I'll say that I still have confidence in, especially their defense, the way their defense has been playing, so they remain number 3. I moved Trinity above Whitewater. So here's my philosophy, JB. Tell me if you think I'm faulty in this at all. We have pretty good understanding that in week 1, Trinity was not at full strength. They were missing several players due to illness of some sort, and they end up losing in overtime to St. John's. And things could have been different if they had full strength, is my view of that. So if the only reason that we're going to ding them ultimately is because of that St. John's game, and they weren't at full strength, then I had the right at this point to assume that Trinity has some level here of ability. Now, the question becomes this. You look at how Trinity handled UMHB, you look at how Wisconsin Whitewater handled UMHB, and I just gave a slight edge to Trinity right now in that comparison. So I did move Trinity slightly above Wisconsin Whitewater. That could change. I toyed with the idea of maybe moving Wisconsin River Falls above either one or both of them, because look at how they handled UMHB ultimately compared to the other 2 teams. I just need to see a little bit more body of work from River Falls before I can make that leap. But to have them at number 6, we've been touting them all season long as one to watch, and the poll finally caught up with us, it looks like, overall on D3Football.com. So in Hardin-Simmons at number 7 and St. John's at number 8, not really big surprises there, although St. John's, I'm curious to see how they handle Bethel coming up very soon here. So, okay, you see the top 8 there, first third or so. What's your thoughts? Have I screwed up royally?
No, I think it makes a lot of sense to me. I feel like one of the things you left out with the Trinity St. John's situation was that BS ejection for Caleb Harmel. If he stays in that game at linebacker, they win as well, I think. And no matter, coulda, shoulda, woulda, what have you. But yeah, I do feel like the way they're playing, the way they handled the last couple of games, it's been an impressive run for the Tigers. 2 weeks from now, they go to Barry, and I'm actually thinking about either driving or flying up to that one, because the way the Vikings are cruising right along, they might be the number 1 contenders in the SAA now, the last sort of big roadblock that the Trinity might have to finishing out the season with only 1 loss. So I think they make sense at 4. I think the top 8, top 10 looks good.
Yep, Carnegie Mellon and John Carroll round them out. Carnegie Mellon, I'm a little bit higher than the poll. We'll see what happens. Grove City will have a lot to show here as to whether this is right or wrong at home, 7 o'clock on Saturday night. Linfield at 11, I've toyed with maybe dropping them a little bit, but we'll see. I'm going to wait and see on them a little bit. Randolph-Macon, funny story, was at the Union Springfield game, and somebody in a Springfield shirt and his wife come up to me, and they're like, you guys on In the Huddle need to give more love to Randolph-Macon. And I said, well, sir, we actually are big fans of Drew Campanelli, their quarterback. And he's like, and I'm his father. And I was like, okay,
What?
well, yes. Drew Campanelli, I think his brother it is, plays for Springfield, but did not travel with the team for this week's game. And so they went to Union to watch the Springfield game, and then they apparently traveled down to watch Drew's game the next day. And they were very nice meeting them, great folks, and told them send our best to Drew. We wanted to have him on the show last year. Schedules didn't allow it to happen. And so someday we'll hopefully have him on the show because he is a great quarterback for sure. So there you go, Randolph-Macon at number 12. And hello to the Campanelli family. In Wheaton at number 13, Little Brass Bell game is setting up interestingly in a couple of weeks, which might be the game. If you go to Barry, maybe I go to Wheaton that weekend to watch that game because that's huge as well. 14, I have an overlay going on here on Muhlenberg compared to the poll. I think Muhlenberg is the strongest team right now in the Centennial. I think Muhlenberg can beat Johns Hopkins right now. And so I have them right now at 14 and Hopkins at 15. I think the rest of the country isn't very high on the Centennial, but, you know, yeah. Do you have Nate Milne on the phone? Is it the elite statesman?
Yeah, I think he's saying, shut up, Frank. His team doesn't need to hear that. They want to be the underdogs. They want to keep fighting. So, yeah, Coach Milne says to cut it.
Well, he's got Joe Rapetti, who's been impressive and has matured quite a bit into the season. That's for sure. I look forward to that game. I hope I get a chance to get to that game this year. Muhlenberg and Johns Hopkins have gotten to the last 2 years, and for good reason. It was just a very, very good game on the schedule both times. Alma at number 16, they just keep winning. What else can I say? 17, Wisconsin Lacrosse. They played well against Hardin-Simmons, so they made their way into my poll, basically, and keep rolling up. Mary Hardin-Baylor at number 18, yeah. First time I've ever had an 0-3 team in my ballot. First time I've ever had an 0-3 team that's played 3 top 10 teams, basically, in my ballot, if you really want to get down to it here. Yeah, so let's just keep it, again, in perspective. And I got to say, I wasn't very impressed by Whitewater's performance on Saturday overall. It was a good game in terms of it was close and all that stuff, but it was not a game that I walked away from with an idea of really who Whitewater is offensively. Or maybe I did. They were very one-dimensional offensively. It was run. I understand pound the rock. I get it. But in this day and age, it's got to have a balance to it. And I think that's why Mary Hardin-Baylor was able to clamp down in the second half against them, because they kind of dared Cincinnati to throw, and he wasn't throwing much in that second half, and they got the ball back quite a bit because they were able to key in on the run. Tamir and company just had trouble in that second half getting any kind of momentum going. So Mary Hardin-Baylor, 0-3 but not dead. We talked about it earlier in the show. We'll leave it there. Bethel at number 19. I want to see how St. John's and Bethel duke it out here. Susquehanna at 20. They were not a team that was in my top 25 to start the season, and they've definitely worked their way up. And then we have Ithaca, Cortland State. It seems like an interesting way to have them all right next to each other right now, 2021-22. Yeah, right. But it kind of fits inside of what's going on here. Aurora at number 23. Again, they just keep winning. Del Val, don't know what's going on with Del Val. They could lose games in the MAC this season, though. We'll see. For now, I think Barrios and company still have enough experience on offense to win games. It's the defense that's concerning a lot of people ultimately, although Barrios' numbers were pretty god-awful on Saturday compared to what you'd expect. And Washington and Jefferson makes their way onto my ballot officially. We had them on our combined ballot before the season began, but they've made their way on officially onto my ballot at number 25. And so while Grove City Carnegie Mellon is a big game, Wash and Jeff have games against both still to come this season, which could tell us a lot about what's going to happen in the pack ultimately. Okay, so the last 17 teams or 15 teams or so, what are your thoughts there? How would you shuffle?
Well, I mean, I think, well, I don't know if I would have Muhlenberg. No, I think I wouldn't have Muhlenberg as high. Maybe Wheaton I would have bumped up. I mean, they looked really impressive against the Titans of Oshkosh. maybe I'd push them. I thought John Carroll actually looked pretty bad in the first quarter against Baldwin Wallace. I was like, this is supposed to be a top 10, 15 team. The Blue Streaks weren't really impressive. They kind of got things going, and obviously they won by 23 points when it was all said and done, but they didn't look as good to me as they did in week one. I don't know if it was like the bye week rust or something. I like the position of Hopkins based on their body of work. Same thing with Alma. Lacrosse, sure, they won a game against a D2 school. I guess that's a big deal, and they're certainly still in the mix as far as the WIAC goes. I think Mary Hardin Baylor in that sort of 15 to 20 range makes a lot of sense. You can't ding them too much for having one of the toughest schedules we've ever seen. And down the road, I mean, Susquehanna, Ithaca, Cortland State makes sense. Del Val, I guess, can still hang in there, although, like you said, Frank, they aren't looking as impressive. They have a game this weekend coming up against Kings, who's quietly gone 3-0 and is blowing teams out. They only lost by 20 points, I think, to Del Val last season, and that was when Del Val had this multi-All-American defensive line. Could the Monarchs pull off the upset? We'll see. And Washington Jeff, I've been a big fan of them early on. I'd probably put them more in the 21-20 range just based on how they're taking care of business. They'll ultimately, like you said, though, have their chance to prove it in a couple weeks.
Yeah, and I'm just taking a quick peek here as to, I remember that little debacle that happened with Kings at Del Val a few years ago in the locker room area and everything else. And this game is at Del Val, so at noontime on Saturday. So I'm curious to see if there's any carryover with that. I have a feeling that Kings will be out to prove something there when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
Games I'm going to be attending, we've already announced, which is rare for us to do this early, but I felt like it was an appropriate move here. Although, if one of these two games would like to move their start times by 15 minutes to help me out here, because the travel is a little problematic, please feel free to start at either 7:15 or 12:45, I think would be on the flip side of it, if it's Susquehanna hosting Western New England here. Making sure I've got all my notes right here, but so Susquehanna hosting Western New England 1 p.m. and Grove City hosting Carnegie Mellon at 7 p.m. So it's about a 3-hour plus trek across I-80 to get to Grove City on Saturday night. So anyway, if somebody wants to move a start time, feel free to let me know to help keep me safe and sound as I try to go cover your games. This is our D3 world. I did have to laugh, though, because Union has this rare night game on Friday night. Remember who was pushing for a night game back when? Yeah, the Dutchman's Shoes, no less. But, I mean, a night game to help provide better coverage. Hi, Frank Rossi here. And I'm walking out, and the AD's like, this was a great atmosphere and everything else. And I'm like, yeah, it was, wasn't it? And that's what I've been trying to tell you. You got to do this more often. There's no reason not to. The hockey team was there. They formed a tunnel for the players after the game, to high-five them and everything. And it was a great atmosphere, absolutely. But, I mean, you got to have the gumption to schedule a game like that in the month of September, especially when the weather's going to cooperate with you.
Absolutely.
Even in November, if it's cold. If it's going to be cold at noon, it's going to be cold at 5, 6 o'clock. So, I mean, just keep it, again, in perspective. But I've talked enough. We got to get out of here. JB, your final thoughts on week 3.
Well, the one thing I would like to give a shout out to is I think a lot of people, when the announcement came out about the landmark kind of combining pieces of different conferences, it was looked at as a negative thing. 3 weeks into the season, all I've seen is positive, and they're actually beating the Empire 8 in a lot of their head-to-head games, which I think is a little bit of a surprise. I mean, a lot of folks were like, well, they'll be sort of in the bottom, 20 ranked 20-something conference-wise. They're winning a lot of these head-to-head matchups, and I've been real impressed with what I've seen so far. I think it's been, even though I imagine it's a headache for the coaches and the ADs trying to figure out these out-of-conference schedules, as a fan, it's great to see matchups like Utica-Lyco and Susquehanna-Cortland and all of these kinds of things. Hopkins-Salisbury. This is good for the sport, in my opinion. Having 4 at-large bids, though, maybe not so good. But at the end of the day, we've had some really entertaining matchups. Matchups for week 4 are going to be harder to come by, to be honest. There won't be as many big-time games, and they'll be sort of spread out throughout the day. We'll get into that on Friday. And, finally, Peyton Lyon, man, you keep doing your thing. Shout out to you. All the respect. You're a gamer.
Let's see if we can get him on Friday in some way, shape, or form or another, maybe in our cold open. It's the Peyton Lyon cold opens. That's what we'll turn the show into. What do you got?
I would be remiss if I forgot this. I have to give a shout out to my mom and dad. Tuesday, September 19th, assuming we can get the show out today. Frank, good luck with all the editing.
Thanks, appreciate
it's their 53rd, their 53rd wedding anniversary. Kind of crazy. They don't make them like they used to, as you could say. So sending love to mom and dad. Tomorrow's my dad's birthday. And so big week here in September for the Baker fam, and sending love from Florida up to Connecticut.
And sending love from New York over to Connecticut. Your mom is one of our biggest fans of the show. I saw the emails to prove it. And so we appreciate her love and support. And, happy anniversary, guys. It's a great thing seeing a marriage that's so strong lasts so long, as they say. So on that note, let's leave it there. We'll see you on Friday for a Week 4 preview. It may not have many big games to preview, but there are some games that we're going to key in on for sure and predict as this guy tries to get back to the even with me, and he might. It's possible this week. We'll see how it falls out. We'll see you on Friday, folks. Thanks.